Well, here we are again, episode 4 of my Lefty Guitar Conversion. Today, the wiring. I really didn't think I'd get this far today. I just finished putting the neck back on, and my mailman delivered me a package. Got my pickup. It's a Seymour Duncan Invader. It's a bridge pickup. Measures 16.28 ohms resistance. It's a hot pickup. I'm really stoked to see what this thing's going to sound like. So, time to get started. Got the soldering iron warmed up. Let's dive right in. I'm going to start out and run the wires for the output jack. Just going to pass them down through the wire cavity. Pull them back up. I've cut them nice and long, so I got plenty of room to work with. Black is ground, white's hot. That's how I'm going to wire these. Make sure you don't have any loose pieces of wire sticking out. Any of those wires sticking out, that's a potential place you could ground something out. I've got my wires in place on the jack. Now we'll just solder them in. So now I've got the jack plate screwed back on. It's time to start working on the pickguard and getting that ready to go. First thing I need to do, I need to get the volume pot mounted in there. Again, I'm only going to have one volume control and a coil split switch. I'm not going to have a tone control. Most of the time I play with my tone wide open anyway, so figured I'm not even going to mess with it right now. If I need one later, I can always add one. So I got a 500K volume pot here that I'm going to put in. One thing with the volume pots, you've got these lugs right here really close to the threads, the level of the threads on the pot. What can happen is if your pickguard has shielding on there, which mine does, it came with shielding, plus I added some of the copper foil shielding in a few spots just to make sure I had good coverage. You can get some grounding. If your pot touches that foil, it's going to short out your signal. So you need to shield that, and you can just wrap it with electrical tape and that would work just fine. But a really cool trick I found online is to take something like a credit card type material. I happen to have a piece of a clamshell CD case, and I just cut a scrap out of it. It's really bendy. It's like a debit card or a credit card type of material, and you drill a hole in it so that your pot fits over there. Then you just take a pair of scissors and trim around it. So what that does is when you put this pot up into the pickguard, any of the foil that's going to contact anything is going to contact that plastic, and you're never going to have anything short out. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, and then we'll get it on the pickguard. I've got this cool mirror red pickguard. I think it's going to look really awesome on here. On the back of the pot, you've got 3 lugs. The one on the far left goes to your hot wire on your pickup. The one in the middle goes to your output jack, the hot wire on your output jack, which is going to be my white wire. And the one on your far right is your ground. Now a lot of times what people do is they'll just bend the ground lug up and solder it to the top of that. I never really like that. I'm always kind of afraid to bend that lug. So I'm just going to run a little tiny jumper wire from that lug up to the top of the pot. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the pickup mounted in the pickguard. The pickup comes with the springs and screws that you need to mount it to your pickguard. I want to be careful not to scratch this finish because it is a mirror finish. At least I don't want to scratch it during the build. I'll end up scratching it eventually, but I want to try to avoid it right now. To mount the pickup, you put your screws through the mounting holes. Then you put your springs on. This part is a little bit tricky because you have to compress the springs while keeping the screw aligned with the hole in the threaded hole in the pickup, all the while not letting the screw go flying away from you. You almost need about 4 hands. Alright, so I think that was the trickiest part. It's really tough to hold those springs back on that screw and get it started in the pickup at the same time. But now I got that done, we'll finish this up. First I'll solder the white wire that runs to the hot of the output jack. to the middle lug of the pot. Then I'll solder the ground wire that goes to the output jack to the back of the pot. Now the bridge ground. Now the pickup ground. Now the pickup uses a different color for the hot wire. I'm using white for my guitar wiring. The hot wire for the pickup is black. That gets soldered to the left lug of the pot. And last, I'm going to solder one little ground wire that runs from the shielding to the back of the pot. So the last thing I need to do before I can wrap up this wiring is I need to drill a hole in the pickguard for this little mini toggle switch. The toggle switch is just going to be a coil split, so that way I can also get some single coil sounds out of this humbucker. I've chosen a location on the pickguard that I think will work good for it. I just need to drill a hole. Now I can remove the pickguard and drill a clearance hole for the switch. On the drill press I'm using a Forstner bit, which is going to give me a nice flat bottom hole that the switch will fit in perfectly. If there's anything I should have done in a different order, it was probably this. I probably should have done this a long time ago. Now I just need to touch up that spot in the shielding with a couple of pieces of foil. Now we can mount our switch. I'm putting a couple of small washers on the back of this switch to make sure it's as low in the pickguard as I can. I really don't want my arm to be hitting it while I'm playing. So if you're not familiar with a coil split, a humbucker is kind of like having two single coil pickups wired together. A coil split basically sends a signal from one of those coils to ground, which would basically turn it off. So then you're left with a single coil. So the advantages of that are you have a lot more tonal options. You're not just stuck with just the humbucker. You can shut off one of the pickups and have a lot more single coil kind of sounds. There's wiring diagrams included with the pickup that explains exactly how you need to wire it for a coil split. I'm just going to solder the hot wire to the switch, and we'll solder the ground wire to the back of the pot. Just going to tie these pickup wires together a little bit to help me keep them out of the way inside the guitar. And let's try it out. Alright, I got a little amp set up here. We're going to plug it in. Let's see what happens. Turn it up a little. We have sound. Let's try our coil tap. That works. Volume. Alright, let's put this thing back together. So we'll get the pick guard screwed down. I guess this would be a good time to peel this cover back. Now is when I'll probably scratch it. Now we can go ahead and put the tremolo back on. We'll install our springs. Well, there it is, it's back together. It looks like a guitar again. All I gotta do now is get some strings on it and go through the setup, and we'll get this thing ready to play. So thanks for watching this episode. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do have about one more video left, and we're just going to cover the setup on this thing and we'll wrap it up. So thanks for watching. Okay, this is working great. These springs are going to go flying. I'm going to lose it. I can see it already. It's going to happen. Get ready. Here we go. Here we go. Spring. Tricky, I'm telling you. tricky. Okay, I'm sure there's a trick for this. I don't know it. Oh, geez, this is ridiculous.